Good morning, Tree Country 1330 WTRE. Welcome, Mayor Marsh.
Good morning. Happy Thursday, everyone, and good morning in WTRE country.
The sun is shining today.
It's a beautiful Thursday.
And we didn't get blown away.
That's right, and it's not a frost advisory this morning. So
No.
Spring is on the way.
Thank goodness. That means it's grass mowing season.
That is true. Way to be so optimistic about that.
And flowers. It's time to buy flowers.
It is, actually, and if you haven't been downtown yet, Expressions planted some flowers in the alleyway, Alley 1822, and on the east side of the square as part of that project from last year. So the pansies are out, the bright
look
colors
great.
are in. They do.
I saw them yesterday.
They went in yesterday, just in time. But yeah, it's great, and a great piece of the springtime puzzle. Brings some color to downtown. The street department did a fantastic job with some new mulch on the west side, and we had some issues with the boxwoods getting a blight on the south side of the square, which is a whole nother long story that no one's interested in, but there's new landscaping on the south side. So downtown, outside of the orange barrels that have popped up, is really looking great.
It is. I drove through later yesterday, and I was like, it just looks so springy.
It does, and there's we talked about it a while back, but Kristen, who's our communications director for the city, and also she's technically my assistant, so she chairs the Indiana Mayor's Assistance Conference this year. She's the president of that organization, which we're very proud of her leadership in that role. And their conference kicked off here in town last night. So they had a really great welcome reception out at High Point, and Brothers McGee came out and played for them for a couple hours, and they've got about 75 people in town today for a kind of a full day of training, and they're here overnight again tonight as well. But we're welcoming people from all over the state that are involved in municipal governments and showing them what Greensburg has to offer, which is fantastic.
Exciting to have such a group of people that come from other cities that are working to achieve the same things we are.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. I'm headed out there this morning after this to do the official welcome ceremonial speech, talk about what we're doing. And then GPD's doing a presentation this afternoon about self-defense and protecting City Hall and what do they need to be looking for, as people come in. Most of these individuals are ladies who also, cover the front doors of buildings and deal with phone calls and questions. So they're doing that. They've got Jeremy Brilliant, who's a former WTHR news anchor and is actually who I worked for. He's the one that hired me when I worked for the Attorney General. And so Chris and I both worked for him there at the state. And he's coming down to do media training. So what happens, if somebody just rushes in the front door and throws a camera in your face, and how do you respond, and what information should be going out in press releases, and how do you have great relationships with your media partners? And then the Main Street's coming to talk about revitalizing Main Streets, and there's a few others. So it's a really, really great showcase, not of only our locals, but also just bringing some different skill sets to those conference attendees. And then we're going to really, really showcase downtown this evening starting about 5 o'clock, which is going to be a lot of fun.
I think it's so important, too, the roles that these people that are here for this conference, the role that they play is vital to success for people such as you and other city administrators.
Yeah, they really take care of them. Kristen sort of helps take care of our entire team. She makes sure that we're compliant with public notices for random board meetings all the way through, working to help make sure staff has access to resources they need, and that she shares the good news that's happening within our agencies. But then also she's the one that's helping kind of spearhead that when something's going wrong. So they're really involved in a ton of the day-to-day operations outside of the, air quotes, administrative task. But they're valuable members of the team, and they're from all different sizes of cities and towns, mostly cities, from the city of Fort Wayne all the way down to Aurora. 3,000 people, I think, are all here. So it's really, really great to welcome them to our community and show them what we've been working on, what we're doing, and then thank them for their contributions that they make to our communities that they call home.
Very good. What's been going on citywide here the last week?
Well, the big one that impacts the vast majority of folks would be the Washington Street intersection at Broadway. We talked about it last week. Told you it was going to close on Monday. It closed on Monday. They are making progress. You've seen the storm water infrastructure, those giant concrete boxes that have been sitting out near the bank there for the last few days. Those are going in the ground in the intersection, so there's lots of great progress being made. The team from Schutte Excavating is doing a phenomenal job. I know it's a little dusty and dirty. That's been one thing that has been chatted about, but it's a short amount of time. It's 1 month, and then we'll slide out of the intersection and we'll keep marching our way east. We will be done by the Fall Festival. We were able to meet that deadline last year, so I know we've been working on the Washington Street phase a little bit longer, but really our construction season's about the same to finish that final block now versus what we did the block on Franklin Street in last year. The sort of positive news is that on the back side of that, much less impactful than the Jackson or than the Washington Street intersection with Broadway, is Jackson to Montfort has reopened in front of the church. They've got some temporary pavement in. O'Mara's came in and did that yesterday, so that's improved. That's better. The section between Broadway and the bank drive-through is probably going to remain closed for a vast majority of the project, although the intersection will reopen in about a month. They need some space to work in, and they're trying to keep the downtown impact on the square as limited as possible. So they're going to sort of use that as their base and then hop across the intersection and finish up the rest of it. So that's been well underway. Progress is being made. Lots of concrete's being poured. Following up behind, there are trees and sod that's already been planted on the backside. So outside of the pavement lining the backside, streetlights is mostly done, which is great. We're glad to see that. As they march east, it's always worth remembering that businesses will be open, access to the courthouse will be open throughout the duration. It may require a little bit of maneuvering, but it will be available. And please just be cognizant, stay out of the work zone, stay out of the construction zone. It's dangerous, and we don't need anybody to get hurt even after hours. Walking in there may cause issues, so please avoid the area.
Very good. And as many times as I've heard that intersection's going to be closed, and I knew it was closing, but I still thought I was going to go through it come Monday.
Yeah, well.
It didn't happen.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you for not driving through it.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Out on the other side of town, talking about construction sites, I was out looking at the East Side Trail expansion, which is great. So, obviously we're connecting the amphitheater area over to the library. The library has contracted with PAF to put in a story walk, which is a lot of fun.
Yes, I was just hearing about this with someone the other day, and how fun is that?
It sounds really cool. I've never actually seen one. I've heard about them, but I've never actually seen one. And there's different versions of it where they actually take a book and either tear apart the book and put the pages in, or make photocopies and they slide the pages in, and then you walk along, and there's 20 or 21 stations, and you read the book as you go. And so they're very excited about that. It's another trail amenity that we're able to add, and it's a great partnership. The library was so excited when they heard that the trail was going to get extended. They immediately came and asked if they could add that, and we're like, sure, that's great. I mean, it's another educational asset, but it's also an entertainment and cultural asset too. So very excited to see that. You can really start to get a sense of the scale and scope of the work out there now. All of the cut in for the trail has been done. So all the way up from the very front of Pirate Park down through the library, Main Street, it's connecting to the library, and over to Rebecca Park by the pickleball court. So you can really start to get a sense of the whole project coming together. They will most definitely be done before the first concert that's hosted by Visit Greensburg out there this summer, and we're excited to see that come to fruition rather quickly as well. It'll start to come together really nicely, I think, now.
Very good. I was out off of Veterans Parkway yesterday and noticed the new homes that are starting to pop up.
Seems like one of those literally popped up in one day.
I had been out there, I feel, not very long ago, and then yesterday I was like, wow, that was fast.
I think they've got 2 new ones under roof, plus the model. That's the last time I was out there. I don't know if another one's popped up yet or not, but
I feel like there may have been another, maybe the foundation porter or something. Yeah.
They are moving on that as well. The last update that was given by Zach to the Redevelopment Commission is that there are 10 homes or 10 lots already sold and ready to be built. They just have to get to building the houses. So when you look at their goal for 2025 was to build 20 homes, 10 of them already being sold is a big head start on that before you get to, April 15th.
That's very quick. I mean, it seems fast, but
We've been
doing a
talking.
great job.
We've
Yeah.
been talking about it for years. That there's a lot of demand for, single family, affordable homes in the community, and this shows that demand was there. Obviously we're a long ways from it being built out. So, if I don't know if this is being recorded, wink, wink. But if we'll see when we get to the end, but there seems to be a lot of demand. There's still a lot of excitement about it. We have other developers who are taking notice of how quickly they're selling, which is great because that is really sort of a part of the mission of this whole project, is to show that there is demand. There just hasn't been developable space to build homes. It's the development that's sort of holding us back. So as long as we can, keep up the momentum and individuals want to keep looking for new options, this is a big step in the right direction. Another piece of this puzzle that's sort of from the community planning component is we have members of our community who are in homes that maybe they're empty nesters, they're too large, they don't need that much space anymore. They could look at these options as new construction, lower maintenance, and smaller footprint. And then it can also go the other way. Individuals that are looking to grow into a bigger home, want to get out of their first home and into their second home, want more space, need more space, those kinds of things. So we're really looking at maybe being able to open up both ends of the market and the resale market as well. Because if there's someone who wants to move out of a bigger home, there's probably someone who might be interested in moving into that bigger home. And if there's somebody who's renting now and wants their first home or a smaller first-time home, then those are going to become available as well. So we really think it's a great sweet spot to help interject some life into our real estate economy from new construction, which is not that common, unfortunately.
It's great just to be able to watch the city kind of flourish. And I think about this as we go into spring, right? Because grass is greening up, the park is taking place, and we're starting to see where families can continue to grow here locally.
Yeah, and there's lots, we constantly work in the background. A lot of people ask me very specifically for something. I know one of the big ones now is Columbus just announced that they're finally getting an Olive Garden. And people have been asking, why can't we go get an Olive Garden? And it's like, well, we don't exactly go and get franchises. We don't build businesses, really.
And there's a method. We've
Yeah.
had this discussion too. There's a method on how the franchises choose where they go.
100%. And I will point folks to Columbus, and they are 55,000 people on a very, very heavily traveled interstate. We are fortunate to have I-74 that helps our traffic count, because traffic counts, population, households, and incomes really drive those conversations surrounding franchises and retail and grocery and commerce. But when you look at Columbus, for example, 55,000 in the city of Columbus, 75,000 maybe in Bartholomew County, a very, very, very heavily traveled interstate versus the traffic load that's on 74. So it is very different. So when people are like, why aren't we getting an Olive Garden? Well, those metrics are not exactly the same. Household incomes are not the same. Number of households is not the same. Traffic counts, population. So the discussion surrounding what retail, what commercial, what options are available really fluctuates a lot. Obviously, the economy drives a lot of that. Employment numbers drive a lot of that. So we constantly are working in the background for those items. It seems like you can always get a gas station, and I know some folks say, why we have another gas station? We don't actually get to control. As long as it fits within the zoning, it's very hard to tell a business no, and you want to be a little bit careful about that. Pizzas and burgers and fast food and fast casuals are very popular now. Culver's, Chipotle's, Zaxby's, Raising Cane's, Chick-fil-A is always one that's really popular to be asked about, but those have a very, very high income level requirement for the surrounding area, and traffic count has to be outrageously high. So I know they do really well when they bring their mobile Chick-fil-A truck over to Harvest, but yeah, they're not. We've tried. We've sent them a lot of information. We've done our sales pitch to them when they're here in person, and they're like, I think we'll just keep doing this for now.
We still appreciate them coming. It's just
Oh, yeah.
not
Another option.
brick and mortar yet.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Not very many meetings this last week, right?
Yeah, actually, the last couple weeks of the month are lighter for us. We in May are going to start our new schedule for the first week. So we will be having Airport Board, Water Board, Redevelopment Commission, Plan Commission, and Board of Zoning Appeals all on Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month. We've got a schedule worked out. We think we can stick to that. It's actually friendlier for our friends in the media who send reporters over to cover those. They just have to cover one night. We can fit them in just about the same amount of time as what we were under our old schedule, because we had sort of bigger lags between the meetings. And by having 2 nights, we had members of our team that were coming in 2 nights a week in addition to their normal job hours. We've got board members who sit on multiple boards, so we're really thinking that we can do this. The board members were very excited about it. Our partners seem to be excited about it. Our consultants that come, when that is necessary, we're fine with the changes. Some of them get home earlier, which is great. We don't mind doing our meetings in the evenings. We've had a long-standing tradition and history of doing our meetings in the evenings because it does allow more access, but it also requires us, when we bring people in who are helping us work through a problem, consultants, contractors, etc., we're asking them to give up their evenings as well. And our board members are giving up their time too. Some of those are volunteered, some are paid a little bit, but the new schedule, I think, is going to work well. We're going to try it out. If it doesn't work, we can always go back. It's easy to go back.
I know that Chris is excited for a little bit of a change because it is a lot of time, and for your employees and board members as well, it's a lot of family time giving up too. So by condensing, that should help to some degree.
Yeah, and those meetings are important too, but generally they don't require as much time. So by really focusing on analysis of what we've spent time on over the last 5 years, we think we've arrived at a solution that will allow everyone to conduct their business, have thorough conversations. We're not trying to fast track or cram something through. We're just making a little bit more efficient use of everyone's time. The boards all seem to think that that's the case as well. And the great part is if one of them runs long because they have a long agenda or that they have a conversation that they spend a lot of time on, that's okay. We'll just back everything up a little bit. We're still hours ahead at the end of the year, even if 1 or 2 meetings a year start 20 minutes late, then we will be just fine. We are not changing Board of Works and City Council, so those will still be on the second week of the month at 5:30 for Board of Works, 6:30 for Council, so we're not adjusting those. Those do require a full hour-ish generally. We've had just a few Board of Works meetings that have run long into City Council, but not very many. And based on the way we used to do it, this is way more efficient. Again, even if we're late a little bit, we're still hours and hours ahead.
And that does start in May, right?
Correct.
Okay. I didn't ask you about this beforehand, but we talked about SB1 last week. Yeah.
That actually did get signed by the governor. There's still a lot of things in there. Not much has changed since we talked last week. Last week when we spoke, it came out of the House and went to the Senate. There was some discussion about whether the Senate would concur or not. And what that means is when Senate Bill 1 left the Senate, it went to the House. The House changed some language. And in this example, it changed a lot of language. It changed the entire concept of the entire bill. Including the name, which I'm not very happy about, but that's okay. When that happens, then it has to go back to the Senate for review. And if the Senate will agree to every single change down to the period where the House said, then they can concur. And they vote to concur, and then it goes to the governor. If they wish to change as much as a comma, then it has to go to conference committee. And there was some discussion, and conference committee is where the House will send 2 representatives and the Senate will send 2 senators, 1 from each party, or 2 and 2, however they decide to do that. Like SB1, they might send more than 2, but it's a bipartisan unit. And they sort of go into an office and get out their red markers and argue it out and say, the Senate would in theory agree to this, the House would in theory agree to this, and then it goes back to those chambers as it comes out of conference committee for one final vote on that. You take it or you leave it after it comes out of conference committee. If SB1 had gone to conference committee, Who knows what would have come out? And in an odd turn of events, the Senate concurred with every change the House had made. So then now it went to the governor's desk, which he did sign earlier this week. So SB 1 is going to, it's now, Senate Enrolled Act 1. And we'll see. It is what it is at this point. Our financial firm is working with a lot of municipalities around the state to figure out what that impact has. At least we know what the rules are going to be now. There's a lot of stuff in there about local units of government and income taxes, and this 10% or $300 homestead thing is, I think, being a little bit blown out of proportion as meaningful historic property tax relief. I'm concerned that long term, I mean like 2 to 3 years, that we're going to be right back where we are, and I'm not really sure we achieved anything. Now, again, I'm not an accountant, but pay a decent amount of attention to, municipal finance, as you might imagine. So we'll see. We'll see how it's going to impact us. I've alerted our department heads that, we're going to be looking at that. Now we know what the black and white text is. It's 350 pages long. So that's a big one.
That's a big one.
To dissect through. And when you
there's a lot of verbiage.
It's tiny print.
I have scanned it, obviously not studied it like you all will, but there's a lot in there. So I'm curious as it continues to be dissected what all is.
And it affects, there's lots of words about schools which don't apply to us but do impact our community. There's a lot of words about, small towns, which doesn't apply to us but does apply to Westport, St. Paul, New Point in our community. There's a whole overhaul of county income tax, which applies to everyone. And just going through and saying, okay, when this changes, here's how this impacts this. It's got a 5-year phase out of the homestead to tax deduction. It's got a 5-year implementation of some other homestead tax assessment deduction. So how do those two work hand in hand? When does the revenues switch? Income tax is 2027, 2028 impacts. So it's a big, complicated beast that we'll see now that it's done. We'll see. The fun part is they're already talking about they call them, you don't hear this term very often, but they're called trailer bills.
Okay.
And that is a bill that follows the other bill. So Senate Bill 1 is done. Now it's Senate Enrolled Act 1, and House Ways and Means, Senate Tax and Fiscal, which are the two committees that have seen this, have already said, well, we probably have to come back and do a trailer bill to clean up and fix what we didn't get right in this one. So they're already working on that for next session. So we're going to be back talking about this again, I imagine, next year, because they're already talking about a trailer bill because they kind of put too much stuff in one and did it very quickly, and it's big, and it's a full tax system overhaul that a lot of people don't seem to understand how it works. And
again, to make sure people understand, this year, what you're going to pay for taxes this year is last year. We're making up. That's how we work.
We're in the arrears, right?
Yes.
So your 2024 pay 2025 is what the current tax bill is. You get a form in the spring. I don't know what the form is numbered. It comes from the county assessor. You'll probably get it in the next 8 weeks, I would think. And it will tell you what your assessment's going to be for the following year. So a lot of times folks are like, well, I don't know what my tax bill's going to be going forward. Well, you kind of do. You can use your tax rate from this year and apply it to when you get that form in early 2025. That's the assessment number they're going to use for 2025 pay 2026. So if you look at what the rate is, we're at a 15-year tax rate low. If you're in the city, I can only speak for the city of Greensburg as an overall all taxing units, all 6 stacked together, the city, the county, the schools, the library, solid waste, and the township. If you stack all of those together and you live inside the city of Greensburg, the tax rate has not been lower in the last 15 years. Now assessments are higher, what properties are worth. So when you take the higher number times the rate, then you arrive at your 1%, right? You pay 1% of your property tax value on your home. So when we start looking at what that looks like next year, if you're inside the city of Greensburg, you can take your assessed value times 1%, and you can get pretty close to what your tax will be in 2026. So you do get a heads up. That's something that's a misnomer that some people don't realize, is that when that form comes, it says this is not a tax bill, but it will tell you what your assessment will be for 25 pay 2026.
So we shall wait and see what happens, won't we?
That's right.
Yes. Also, yesterday, Governor Braun talked about Make Indiana Healthy Again. That plan kind of came out. Did you get much time to review that?
I've not had an opportunity to look at that, but you're the healthcare professional, so
yeah, it's interesting. Well, lots of changes to Medicaid, and working to kind of fill the jobs that are open that don't require any experience or college degree associated. So that's going to be associated with keeping your Medicaid benefits. And really, I did like they cut out soda, they cut out candy from the SNAP benefits. So I do feel like they tightened it down a little bit, and we'll see how it goes.
I'm sure that that's all in relation to the budget, right, which is House Bill 1001. We've talked about before, too. The lower the number, the higher the priority. So the Senate does 3-number bills. So Senate Bill 1 is their highest priority that they started the session with. House Bill 1001, they start at 1001. So that's the highest priority. That's the state budget. So the Medicare, Medicaid component.
I think it's the highest line in the budget from what I read yesterday. So that's why this became such a focus, to kind of get that under control. And too, they talk about generationally trying to break that cycle. So I'm hopeful that we do see some changes with it.
And there's there was about $1 billion miscalculation the last time that the budget was done for Medicare or Medicaid in the state of Indiana. And so that's been a hot topic, obviously, of where does that money come from. The state's been working towards finding it. A lot of belief in that's why there's not a Ready 3.0, because that money was redirected to make up the Medicare deficit. But there's also a focus nationally at that level. The state budget committee is really emphasizing how do we stretch those dollars further. They're doing a lot in education too. So the JAG program that we just rolled out here in Decatur County, both at North Decatur, South Decatur, and Greensburg, we had great corporate partners like Honda who stepped up to help with that. Like, they're rearranging how that funding's done. So there's a ton of work. We only do our budget every 2 years for the state of Indiana, the biennium budget. And so this year is what we call long session, meaning they're in session more weeks than in short sessions. But this is the budget year. So the Medicare, the Healthy Indiana concept is right in line with the budget process as well. And I'm sure there's a bunch of varying opinions out there about those items you mentioned being on SNAP. And, I'm sure there's lots of folks that are glad to see some of those changes made, as, what is the necessary nutritious items that you need to buy versus wants and other items.
Yes. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Is there anything else? I know we're getting close to session being over. Anything else that's kind of hanging out there at state that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, I don't think there's really. SB1 has consumed a ton. Our AIM, which is our Accelerate Indiana Municipalities, which is our statewide organization, they've had a very successful year in working to move some priority bills in the background. A lot of them are very technical, and so it's been a successful year, and I will continue to give our local state reps, Representative Zimmerman, Meltzer, and Patterson, great kudos, along with Senator Lysing, for being incredibly accessible and helpful. I've been to Indy 3 or 4 times this session. When they're in session, send them a text message, hey, I'm in Indy, I'd like to just get 10 minutes with you. They've all been very willing to meet, talk about what's going on. And it's really good to just let them know that, from the local level, we're supporting them too, and understand it's a hard job and there's tons and tons and tons of pages to sift through. But overall, for a legislative session, it seems like it's gone really well. It has been a little crazy just because we have a new administration in the governor's office, with the budget, with this property tax conversation. So overall, I think it's been a very good session. I don't really have another target that we've been really, really focused on outside of that one, and making sure that it's manageable.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being in this morning. Anything else going on out there that we need to know about?
I don't think so. Tomorrow is Good Friday, so city services are closed tomorrow. Trash pickup will run a double route on Monday. It is Easter weekend, so be kind to your neighbors, enjoy the spring, and hopefully we don't. Our team's been doing a really good job. We don't expect any severe weather. It just looks like some more rain.
Just rain, rain.
Yeah, but it's that whole April showers bring May flowers thing, right?
We're going to be hopeful.
There you go.
That's going to happen.
That's right. So everyone have a great Easter weekend. Thanks for joining us here. We'll be back next week. If not before, have a great Thursday.